91.3 FM, WYEP Pittsburgh. Good afternoon, I'm Rosemary, and it is a beautiful, beautiful sunny day in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And we are broadcasting live from Club Cafe today. We are really thrilled to have a very special event happening here. We have a live audience to prove it. Why are these people so excited? Well, about 10 years ago, I found the reason out. I found this record called Little Earthquakes, and like a lot of you, I was shaken up by it. It was a really amazing record. And that woman who made that record toured that summer. And I went to see that first show here in Pittsburgh, and it was a packed room, and I thought, wow, a new artist, and look at this place, it's packed. And while this woman sang, absolutely not a sound in the room. When she stopped singing, the place went wild. And I thought, this is an auspicious beginning. That was just the beginning. It continues. So please welcome Tori Amos. .3 FM, WYEP Pittsburgh, and we're broadcasting live here on the air in Pittsburgh, but also on the worldwide net, and a live audience here at Club Cafe. Very proud and pleased and thrilled to have Tori Amos doing this kind of an event for us here, so thank you very much.
Hi, Rosemary. Hi, everybody. How you
It's
doing?
a little different doing a show at, 1:32 in the afternoon.
Much different. Also because it's like a living room.
Well, you have a new record out, Scarlet's Walk. You have a new record label, too. Now, as you're heading into a new relationship with a record label, you can make a straight-ahead record, but you took on something that's pretty amazing. And you take on what is being called, well, you've called it a sonic novel. Whenever most writers sometimes get a gift, and a story comes to them, and it's like, wow, here it is. But I think most novels come over time. And they are pieced together, things that you want to say. Where's the genesis of this particular release?
Maybe in some ways 15 years ago, when I was traveling a lot through the country, and you don't even know when you're in places that you're putting postcards in your brain and freeze frames, and they stay there with you. When I was touring about a year and a half ago, 2001, at the end of September, it was clear to me what was happening with Scarlet's Walk. I didn't know before that it was a sonic novel, and it just kind of grabbed me, took me by the hand. And some Native American people came to see me, and in no uncertain terms said, how they knew I was writing this, I don't know. And because my husband didn't know I was writing this. And so they would come up to me, more than one, and just say, if you're going to talk about our true mother, then you must tell her story. And I didn't get freaked out of the heebie-jeebies. I understood I better do my research. So from that point on, I started to gather information of our land and the history of it, and I just jumped off a cliff with it.
Well, there are some reviews that have said, well, this is really a record about the events surrounding 9/11. And I don't hear it exactly that way. I mean, there have been some artists that have tried to tackle some of the emotions that went with that. I mean, we have Bruce Springsteen doing The Rising, trying to deal with emotional resurrection, and you have Steve Earle, who's really challenging people politically. What are you thinking? Or are you just taking the party line? What do you really think? Of course, you have the nationalistic, sort of jingoistic things that have come out. If you are in that category at all, I see it as something that's much more personal, that you have to really kind of dig down deep in there. It's almost about, well, life goes on, but how does it go on?
It seemed to me at a certain point that I was watching people on tour last year having a relationship with our country in a way, the soul of our country, that I've never seen. And I've toured the country for a long time. And it doesn't matter what side they were on politically, I found that people were waking up to, she is alive, and is she being protected, and is she being steered in a course that has integrity for her soul. And I haven't seen this kind of questioning in my lifetime. And that's really the basis of Scarlett, my character's questioning.
You've taken on this role of Scarlett, but it's not the first time that you've done that. You do take on these characters and sort of let them live in you. Do you take that to the stage as well? Whenever you're doing a certain song, does it put you in a different place and a different person?
Well, the songs are entities, and meaning they're separate. I'm the librarian, you know. I'm very clear about that. And they let me know that. It's not as if I can just hijack them and say, you know, they're all mine. I can kind of feel like they're saying everything I felt, but they're their own creatures. They're kind enough to let me have the publishing. So that's good. But, you know, of course, I don't do any of this behind closed doors, no role-playing. I only do characterizations on stage or whatever. I don't know.
Now, you were raised here in the States. You said you've traveled the States, you've traveled the world, and you've been living outside of the country for a while. So, you know, when you're here in the country and you really haven't been outside, you know, there's a certain amount of information that we get via the media. There's that information that we know innately about what's going on, that we seek out. When you're outside of the country, you have different experience. You can get a different perspective on how the world is viewing your country. Do you feel that?
Yeah, very painfully, yes. I think because a lot of us that really love our country and feel like violence is not our first port of call, that we do have somewhat of a vocabulary, hopefully somewhere in us, that we can maybe converse instead of just kill. It's difficult when everybody looks at you outside as a bully and an aggressor and an attacker. And it makes you cry. And I think that it's shaken a lot of us up to realize that we have to decide, you know, what is our country really and how do we want it represented? And every citizen matters now. And that's what I'm seeing as I've come back in, that people are realizing that by not acting, you're handing it over, and that's not okay anymore.
On that note, I am going to let you pick up a couple more tunes for us here. 91.3 WYEP Tori Amos live at Club Cafe. .3 FM, WYEP Pittsburgh. I'm Rosemary Walsh, and no, I was not singing that last song. For those of you listening on the radio, that was Tori Amos. And on a beautiful spring day where it's warm and sunny after a very, very long winter, what would make people sit in a darkened room like this? Probably only Tori Amos. Do you ever get used to people, the reaction that they have to your music? Because you get very, very intense reactions to your music.
Well, like I said to you before, I mean, to be a musician, it's a privilege, and I was playing before I can remember doing anything else. And so you're kind of brought up in a tradition of musicians where, you know, you're there to play and for people, and sometimes they don't want you to play. And so you just sit and eat your sandwich and stay out of the way.
There were days whenever you probably played to crowded bars where nobody was listening.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
But that was a long time ago. Let's be honest about this. I've been to your shows, and that hasn't been the case for a while. People are very silent when you perform.
I think it's good that I cut my teeth for all those musicians out there that are playing Sunday brunches today. You know, I've done it, and you know, people asking you to play for the 17th time, "Don't Cry for Me, Argentina," which is fine. And they sit next to you, and they're singing in your ear, and they're having one of those little mint juleps, because, you know, the Derby's coming, and they're telling you what horse they're betting on, and
This is a song in the making, I think. Well, your lyrics, you know, it's fun to sit down and read your lyrics because some of the time it seems fairly straightforward, and other times I sit there and I puzzle and I think,
Yeah, me too.
I wonder what she's saying. Well, the great thing, though, is, I mean, your lyrics are almost this open palette in a strange way that whoever comes to it can paint their own color on it, and they do.
Well,
People are very intense about that.
Honestly, Rosemary, visual artists are my main inspiration, and have been for a long, long time. Probably since around Little Earthquakes, I kind of moved into just surrounding myself all the time. I couldn't afford to buy them then, so I would check them out of the library. But visual artists, anything I could get my hands on. And then once I could, then I'd surround my piano with it. Just like for this work, Scarlet's Walk, I had a lot of photographers from the 30s and 40s, Central American mainly, that were involved in their revolution, 20s and 30s in Mexico. Manuel Alvarez Bravo, and I would just study their work and the light. And I think because of that, sometimes I make a lot of references lyrically that's more symbolic than it is concrete. So they're my inspiration.
But it gives the listener a chance to really make what they want of it. And, I mean, is there a point where, okay, you write this, and you've done your part, you perform it, and then you put it out there, and you say, okay, it's yours now. This isn't mine anymore. Or do you feel still some domain over that?
Well, you have to release it. Years ago, I think that I didn't understand how to do that, and it'll make you wacky. If, you know, people will come back to you and, you know, stop you in a restaurant, you know, you're just having a little bite with your girlfriend, and they come up to you and they point a finger and said, that song is not about that, Tori. I'm telling you now, and this is what it is, and boom. And so I just think it's better to say, I think you've got a great idea. And sometimes they do. I must say, sometimes they go, wow, you know, I never thought of that. That's quite clever. And, you know, fair enough.
Makes you feel even more brilliant. I'm amazing. I didn't even realize it. Well, something else that sort of runs through your music, and I always, there's this dichotomy of sort of sexuality and spirituality, which on some level doesn't seem like it should be that different, but a lot of people, spirituality becomes religion, and it's a very separate thing. So whenever I read reviews of your music, I hear adjectives like sensual and sexual and even orgasmic. That was one of my favorite ones. And, you know, coming from this very, you know, religious background, you know, I think, wow, that's really interesting that people are getting this. And, you know, so how do you feel about this? Do you think there's a contradiction in there?
Well, in the church I was brought up in, the Methodist side of things, it was a little bit like a dry martini without the martini. Yeah. So you're always looking for, you know, I wanted to go down the gospel church because they were swinging. I mean, something was going on down there, and their hips were moving, and it wasn't as if there was this almost like circumcision of passion. And that's where the whole idea of the Marys marrying each other, you know, in your mind, in your heart, Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene. For Christian women, it's a real important paradigm to kind of set up for yourself, because if you're going to be a Christian woman, you want both those Marys in your life. Trust me.
We're going to jump just back to something that we were talking about a little bit earlier, which was, you know, the characters that you've played. The last record that you did was something really different, and I thought it was a truly amazing record where you took songs by other people, men. That they had written with Strange Little Girls, songs that were about women, and you reinterpreted those, and then you went into this record, and in some ways it seems like, wow, what a strange bridge for two records. Is there some sort of something that works there? There's a real progression, why those two records came after each other?
I think that, in hindsight, doing the all-male record, where the men were the mothers, it was male seed, they're their babies. And it was how men say things and what a woman hears. And then I took on the character of the creature singing, the woman's voice. And whether it was the anima of the song itself or a character that I was tapping into, I think that crawling inside of these structures by these other songwriters upped my game a lot. You know, forced me to really study other work. It's almost as if, you know, they were architects and I got a hold of their blueprints and I spent a lot of time with it. And so sometimes when you immerse yourself in how other people solve, say, musical problems, or, you know, what their vocabulary is, it can make you reapproach your own work very differently. And I think that was kind of in my little toolbox without knowing it, because I spent so much time on Strange Little Girls. I mean, I knew it was dangerous to do that album. And I knew that it had to be airtight. And I had a research team of men, and it's like, and they weren't rats in a cage, although they referred to themselves as that. But they agreed to be part of the research team, and I needed them. I could not do a male record without the male input, so.
Well, we're going to let you get back to a couple more tunes, because I know the people here and out there in radio
I want to
land.
go outside and have a picnic, I know.
91.3 WYEP live with Tori Amos. Our time is coming to an end, Tori.
Yes. Yes.
91.3 WYEP. If you just tuned in, you are listening to a live broadcast with Tori Amos from the beautiful city of Pittsburgh, from beautiful Club Cafe, and we very much appreciate you being here once again today, being so gracious with your time.
No, I love it here. It's great.
We're going to do one more song, but before we do that, there's one thing that I want to wrap things up with. And there's probably nothing there's very few things in life that can affect you as profoundly as having a child, becoming a parent. That happened to you a couple of years ago. And now that that's happened, how does that impact how you approach music, how you approach the world, how you approach your future?
How you approach 7 o'clock in the morning. It's so much better. We rode into Pittsburgh this morning, and the sun was coming through, and she said, "Mommy, sundown." And it's like, yeah, this is 7. 7 o'clock is different than it used to be. Yeah, it's pretty great.
Well, the one great thing also that I notice whenever I'm with a child is there's a certain simple logic that children have that you can forget about, like the most basic things are the most important things and the most amazing things. And as you watch her, what do you learn about yourself now, and what do you learn about yourself as a child?
I guess more than anything, she really does know more than I think she knows. I mean, like the latest one the other day was, we were at Niagara Falls. It was blizzarding, of course, just a few days ago. And so she goes, the ice mermaids, Mommy, are down there. I said, okay, you know me, I can go there with you. Let's get clear. And she said, they're telling me a secret. I said, okay, what's the secret? You need to go to Starbucks and get me that candy.